Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare Usman, is the current UFC welterweight champion, and I need to find someone in this division that can beat him, because it seems like recently he's going to be very, very difficult to beat, and it's going to take someone special to finally take that belt off of him. I'm going to go through the welterweight division, giving you guys my top 5 people to beat Kamaru Usman. Now, just because they are on the top 5 does not mean that I think they have a high chance of beating people. That's how some people got confused in my Israel Adesanya video. You can be at number 5 and still have a 5% chance. I need to find 5 people, and Usman's very dominant, and I need to find 5 people. Okay, number 5 on my list. We're going to start with number 5, work our way forwards to number 1, and find the ultimate threat in the welterweight division for Usman. My number 5 threat is Vicente Luque, the silent assassin going out there. I think he has a real good chance because of how well he can take shots. He's got a dangerous submission game off of people shooting takedowns on him. He's got very good submission game, very, very good submission game, and it nearly always happens when people shoot lousy takedowns on him. He submitted Nico Price in this way. He almost had Brian Barberena in a dash choke as well, but Barberena slipped out of it at the end of the round, then came with some ground and pound, and Luque just had to show how well he can hang in the later rounds. But I think Luque, I've put him at number 5 over Wonderboy. Spoiler alert, Wonderboy is not in this list. Wonderboy was in this list, but I've changed some things because I know that Wonderboy beat Luque. But we're talking about who's going to beat Kamaru Usman, and I think that Luque has a better chance than Wonderboy, even though Wonderboy beat Luque. Because we're not talking about who beats Vicente Luque on this list. If we were, I'd put Wonderboy up there because he already has. Okay? Vicente Luque has a chance to go out there against Usman and land some big power shots that I just don't think Wonderboy has. Wonderboy seems a little bit point-orientated on the feet. I know he'll get taken down by Usman. I just know that he will. I know that, don't worry, I know that Wonderboy trains his takedown defense. I'm very sure that he does. I know that if Usman wants to take him down, he'll have a good chance of getting him down. Now, if Usman wants to take down Vicente Luque, he's also got an amazing chance. I just feel like we've seen more versatility in the game of Luque to handle things on the ground a little bit better than Wonderboy, because we saw in the Matt Brown fight, you get Wonderboy down, even in the Woodley fight as well. Woodley shot like one real takedown in that fight in the first round off of Wonderboy's kick, and immediately got him down and controlled the entirety of the first round and broke Wonderboy's nose in that fight, if you remember. Luque, I think, is a little bit more dangerous just because he's got the counter one-punch power that could shut Usman's lights out. Also, he has heavy calf kicks as well, which I think is the ultimate way. If you can't hang with Usman in the grappling or the jiu-jitsu, injure him. Find some way to injure him, okay? Slam home a calf kick, make that swell up for the next round, then try and get another one on there in the second round, have it swell up a bit more, then maybe in the third round, you can finally get the one final blow of the calf kick that will make Usman a little bit ginger on the feet and then not be able to shoot as effective of a takedown, maybe. I'm trying to scramble here to find guys to fit my top 5 for Usman, but Luque sits at number 5. Moving on to number 4 on my list, Jorge Masvidal. Now, in brackets next to this name, I've included full camp. Okay, I just want that to be very clear. Now, I also believe that Masvidal probably had a real long camp for Usman fight originally at UFC 251. I don't think that Masvidal took that fight on as little notice as he said, because Dustin Poirier came out and said that, listen, Masvidal's going full force in the gym. Don't believe him when he tells you this is a short notice bout. He's been drilling hard for fighting against Usman. He even brought wrestlers into the gym previously, even when he didn't even know he was going to be in there against Usman. He had wrestlers, top-level wrestlers. He was posting all about it. I saw in his community tab on YouTube, he was posting him with high-level wrestlers training most days. Like every week, there was another update showing Masvidal training with wrestlers. So, I think Masvidal had a full camp. However, I think in a rematch, he would have a better chance. And just knowing for 8 weeks that you're definitely taking on Usman at the end of it, it changes the mindset, because you can train for 8 weeks, but knowing for sure, 100%, that Usman is at the end of those 8 weeks, and not chancing that maybe Burns doesn't make it to the fight and has to test positive to something, you know? It changes the mindset, so you don't have that extra fry that you might have had, you know what I mean? So I think Masvidal on a full camp handles his weight maybe a little bit better, because he looked a little bit flabby in there. So I'm not saying he had a perfect camp. I think if Masvidal had a full camp, he would fit at number 4 on the list. I think he did a great job in the first round, and hey, he can go out there and have a decent job in the first round again. I argue he could have maybe lost the first round, but I had him winning the first round live. I thought he won that fight. Won the first round live, not the fight whatsoever. He lost the last 4 rounds. However, he didn't lose. He didn't get destroyed by Usman. He just kind of got held against the cage. He showed some decent anti-grappling. I mean, defended himself very well in certain positions, managed to get back to his feet quite a bit, never really got held down and pounded like we saw against Woodley. Masvidal did very well, and I'm going to put Masvidal at number 4 on this list. In a full camp, I think he has a better chance. Masvidal without a full camp would not be on this list, but I think that Masvidal with a full camp definitely has a really good chance. And just Masvidal, period, in a rematch is number 4 on the list. That's how low we're stooping to find our top 5 for Kamaru Usman. But number 3... it's time for the real threats. Leon Edwards. Okay, and I know a lot of Masvidal fans are immediately pissed off that I've mentioned Leon Edwards' name above Jorge Masvidal. I know Leon Edwards lost to Kamaru Usman. I also know that Edwards did okay against Kamaru Usman. Don't get me wrong, he lost a fight very clearly. Leon Edwards really clearly lost that fight, but he had some success. He landed some good shots. He always lands good shots against people. He seems to never truly be out of a fight when he's losing it. I like Leon Edwards' style. I think he has a real good possibility to go out there and beat Usman. Not just because he's got a good stand-up or he's got good grappling, because he showed good grappling in his last fight against RDA, being the guy that took RDA down, which is something that we didn't expect going into that one. He even showed some decent grappling against Donald Cerrone, who's always a good grappler and never left himself open to get caught with anything by Cerrone, which seems to happen a lot when you try and take Cerrone to the ground. Leon Edwards is a dangerous man. He needs to be respected. He hasn't earned a title shot and he's turned down Wonderboy. So I'm annoyed at Leon Edwards because he should have fought Wonderboy and earned himself a title shot. If anything happened to anyone else at the top, he would fill right in. However, Leon Edwards is dangerous, and he's also not yet past his prime. So this entire year that Leon Edwards has had off, he's going to be improving rapidly, okay? And I think he has a good chance at beating Kamaru Usman in a rematch. I don't think it's a high chance. I would say and argue there's maybe a 22 or 3% chance. I don't know how I've come to such a specific number, but I think there's about a 22.38750% chance. There's no need for a no at the end. I think there's that much of a chance of Edwards beating Kamaru Usman, but I do think he's got a real good shot, man. He did okay in the first fight. Like, I know Usman really did win and did it in very impressive fashion, but Edwards did okay, and I think Edwards could do even more okay. I'll say this: Edwards has more ground to cover than Usman does. Usman's already really good in the grappling department. He's going to improve, don't get me wrong, he's going to improve a little bit on some techniques, but I think Edwards, from where he was when he originally fought Usman, which was one of his first few fights, which was just terrible in hindsight of management to take on Usman in one of your first ever fights, but he has more to evolve on in the grappling because he started at such a low level and now it seems like he's completing his game a little bit more. I still think Usman would beat Leon Edwards, but that's who I'm going for at number 3 on my list. Going to number 2, it's the chaotic one, Colby Chaos Covington. I think he's number 2 on the list. Now we're talking real threats, okay, in my opinion. Now we've finally got to the real threats towards Kamaru Usman. These are the 40%ers, maybe even above 50%ers. But in my opinion, Colby Covington right now in a rematch immediately against Kamaru Usman. If Usman was fighting Burns and Burns fell out and Colby fell in on 8 weeks' notice, had a full camp, I think Usman would beat Colby Covington. But Colby Covington, you cannot deny this, is champion B of that division, okay? He just is. Like, he was razor close in the Usman fight. I'm one of the people that had Colby winning 3 rounds to 1 going into the 5th round. I thought Colby won rounds 1, 2, and 4. Usman winning round 3 very clearly, don't get me wrong, or maybe it was round 2, but I think it was 1, 2, and 4 to Colby. Rocked Usman multiple times in that fight. I think Colby's stand-up has improved a lot and seems to be improving all of the time, and he looked really good against Usman on the feet. And Usman didn't want to shoot takedowns against him, which going into a rematch is maybe going to put either one of them at ease. They went into the first fight, by the way, and they experienced neither one of them wanting anything to do with the grappling whatsoever. That's going to change the mindset of them going into the next fight, because I guarantee you both of them in a rematch are going to go into it thinking, this pussy didn't want to grapple with me. I'm going to beat him on the feet now because I was thinking about the takedown. And then one of them will probably shoot a takedown. But I just think if you put Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman in there 10 times, it's not the same outcome 10 times whatsoever. I think Colby will probably win about 3 or 4 of them. Usman will win the majority. I give him that respect. He's got a bit more power. And I also believe that Usman would increase his chances in a rematch right now, because he has a lot more to expose on Covington than Covington does on him. Covington did what Covington was doing. In my opinion, he won 3 rounds. In many people's opinions, it was 2-2. I respect a 2-2. If you had it 3-1 Usman, you're completely fucking delusional. But if it was 2-2, I get it. It could have been 2-2. I think Usman with the body shots, that's something he will then focus in on the body shots now. Like, if it was just something that he thought could work for him in the first fight, now it's going to be plan A. Plan A will be the body shots, and I think if he does more of them and starts with them in the first round instead of figuring them out as the fight went on, I think he'd have a real good chance of beating Colby Covington and potentially finishing him a bit earlier with body shots. I think if Colby, the only reason I'm going to pick Colby Covington is outside factors. Is Usman breaking his nose? And then coming back to the gym and maybe injuring it again and needing more time off. And then maybe Usman's even more inactive. These are the only ways I'll pick Colby Covington. Let's say Colby goes out there and KOs Masvidal in his next fight. I'm not saying it will happen, but anything can in MMA. Like, let's say Colby Covington goes out there, jab, switch kick to the head, and just catches Masvidal where he doesn't see it coming. And all of a sudden, Colby Covington has this allure of great stand-up, and he's looked even better, and let's say he looks really good on the feet against Masvidal, better than Usman did on the feet against Masvidal. I think that Colby Covington would do a really good job in a rematch, but it's going to take something like that outside of their original fight to make me predict Colby Covington in a rematch. It's going to take an injury from Usman. It's going to take a long layoff. It's going to take maybe this didn't go right in his camp, or maybe Usman shows up at the scales and looks worse than ever on the weigh-ins. Those are the kind of things I'm looking for to pick Colby Covington over Usman, but still, I give him a fucking solid 47, 46, 45% chance in beating Usman, but I think Usman would win a rematch, but he is number 2 on my list, and number 1, you guys knew it as soon as I said Colby's name at number 2, it's Gilbert Burns. People are sleeping on Gilbert Burns, and I don't know why. No one seems to be mentioning that this is the most dangerous fight of Kamaru Usman's career before Colby Covington. Jesus Christ. He's already beaten Masvidal and Edwards pretty convincingly, but Colby Covington, people talked about him being the big test for Usman. No one seems to have that same vibe for Usman versus Burns, and I understand that people aren't really too excited about it because it's Usman versus Burns. It's not the most exciting championship in the world, but it is very competitive because when you think about this, these are 2 people at the same gym. And not only are they 2 people in the same gym, they're 2 people in the same gym that used to be at different weight classes. That means they train together, okay? I don't know if you noticed this about MMA gyms, but as soon as both fighters end up in the rankings, they'll stop training with each other. Jorge and Colby Covington probably haven't trained with each other properly in about 2 years, I'd reckon. As soon as you start realizing, oh wait, this guy's on my radar, I better stay away from him in the gym and not let him see what I'm working on and we might have to go our separate ways. That's when things change. When you start seeing someone rise up, he's a little bit close to my ranking level. We might end up facing each other soon in a year's time. I'm going to call it off now and we're going to separate from each other and just try and keep a professional relationship here. But still, Gilbert Burns was training with Kamaru Usman at a lower weight class, so he was not on Usman's radar. This 55er, Usman's a big guy at welterweight, so I'm sure he looked at Gilbert Burns as a small 55er even. Burns was a 55er. So Usman was training with him like, this 55 is never going to be a problem to me. All of a sudden, within a year, he's got a title shot at welterweight from being unranked and coming off a loss at lightweight. Now he's on the radar, and Usman's trained a lot with him, and I think Gilbert Burns would have a very good chance. He's got a good chance on the ground. It's skill-wise, Burns wins the fight, in my opinion. I still think that Usman has a real good chance, but skill-wise, jiu-jitsu-wise, Burns is on a different level, let's be real. I mean, I just watched his fight with Gary Tonon in a submission. I don't even remember what it was. I don't even know what it was. But he was in a jiu-jitsu match against Gary Tonon, and he looked really good. Really, really good. Like, he's high level. He's always been high level. I think he's a 7-time World Jiu-Jitsu Cup winner. Like, he's a dangerous man. Jiu-Jitsu-wise, he's better than Kamaru Usman by far. Stand-up-wise, I'd say he's better than Kamaru Usman as well. Power-wise, I'd say he's better than Kamaru Usman. Like, Usman has size and strength, but that's kind of the only thing that I give him advantages with. That's a huge advantage to have, don't get me wrong, especially when you're trying to clinch with someone. But listen here, if Yorgan De Castro versus Carlos Felipe, if the referee from that fight last weekend at home versus Aldana is refereeing Usman versus Burns, I'm putting my life savings on Gilbert Burns, because if Usman can't stall against the cage against Burns, he's got to choose. He's got to pick his poison. What do you want? On the feet with a savage in Gilbert Burns? Or do you want on the floor with Jiu-Jitsu Burns? There's not really anywhere to go. Like, I think Usman could win the Burns fight against the cage and work his clinch and maybe do enough body shots and foot stomps and headbutts and head ramming and forehead grazing on the chin moves on Burns to maybe wear down his heart and then maybe get to him in the later rounds. But if there's no stalling allowed, and you've got some of these refs which seem to be breaking up the clinch more and more often, if I was Usman, I'd be worried about Burns, because I think that Burns has a real good chance of beating him. Yeah, it's really, really dangerous. But yeah, those are my guys. Top 5 in order. Hopefully you agree with them. I know some people are going to want to sub out Vicente Luque with someone else, but I think Luque's the best guy outside of Masvidal, Edwards, Covington and Burns to be top 5. Let me know. Obviously, there's people at middleweight that could do it as well, but I'm going to try and stick to the individual divisions. It just makes more sense to do things like that. Thank you for watching the video. Like and subscribe. And thank you for watching one more time. I'll say it again for no fucking reason. Click that button up there. Goodbye. Yeah.